Salt shakers, yeah. I can't say that, I'll be tongue tied on it.
Oh, I love all of that too.
Oh, perfect, okay. You guys ready? All right, welcome to the Williamson County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's March 1st, 2023. It's what time is it? 1:20? About. Roll call, please.
Jim Atkinson,
Present.
Jim Marlowe,
Present.
Jim Razor.
Present. Well, do we have any public comment? We'll start at the top and work our way down. You might have any other business we can talk about. All right, new business, ARPA participation agreements are, you are Phil Springs, right? Please. You've had time to look through this? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's absolutely. You have a pen? You guys ready to start the project? Well, good. Do you have any questions about that agreement? So everything's good to go then?
Are you going to have your department take care of this, or are you going to be subbing the work out?
No, our maintenance
Okay.
So we had, in the interview, I think we talked about the process of which you can get the money. You guys are going to pay for this and you're going to reimburse it? Is that how?
We can.
Yeah, that sounds it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you submit your invoices to the treasurer. We'll set, this money will be set up at the fund and like a drawing.
All right, so whenever you come in, just provide those invoices and waivers of the end, they can pay for it.
It'll come for the board, we look at it, we approve it.
But she could order, for instance, the meters,
Right,
get them invoiced,
and then
bring that invoice in and pay so that they're not having
so,
to float the
so that
money.
you're not out the money.
Right. I saw the look of, oh my gosh, confusion.
Well,
and
that's
I wanted to make
kind
sure
of, I
that-
couldn't remember how we talked
No,
about
I
that
thought that's
before.
what we said, because
Right.
Ashley was back, and that's what we said.
Right, so
But I mean, if we have to do it that way.
I think we can do it this way.
And have you checked on availability?
No, we haven't talked to them since, but they were all, they told us it would be an issue.
We're good. Let's get you to sign that. Perfect. Guys have any more questions?
I think it's fine for you.
I decided, yeah.
Yeah, and then she'll scan it.
Oh,
Or
okay.
make a copy.
Let's do that then. You need the whole thing?
Yeah, I'll
There you
take
go.
it, so I can give her her copy.
Have a copy.
We might do that.
These are all my papers. Well, good. We're excited about this project. Yeah. Remember how many meters we were talking about?
385,
385?
you know.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. Though. It's gonna be
It will
good.
be.
And how's the project come along with the swing room with bonds?
Haven't talked to him, I talked to my engineer last week, and he said everything was moving forward. We're doing some kind of analysis sooner.
I do have some information on that, if you like it.
Sure.
Talked to Brent today. They hired an engineer and getting engineering drawings done. They're going to use our money to take down some damaged steel from that tornado that we done a few years ago. They're going to take that down, a little bit of it. We're going to put the new steel back up. Put some new skin on the building, right there where that's at. So our money's getting ready to be spent over there.
Well, they'll need to come in and sign, we can probably sign.
They didn't have that an agreement? Okay.
There's,
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll reach out to them and ask them to have an agreement. So,
Did you?
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
gonna be good. A lot of employees, new people coming.
Yeah, since we got a new pharmacy.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Really?
Goreville Pharmacy. He bought land last year, and so he's getting ready to start. He said he should break it.
All right. Restaurant's gonna open up. back up,
Restaurant's
too.
gonna open up. It's supposed to be this month. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
Now, is that at the Case Sugar Creek location?
yeah. Yeah, that we had it donated to us. The city owns it.
Oh, okay.
And I said, as long as I'm mayor.
Yeah.
Just because most restaurants don't stay open very long, and then you go to bankruptcy with the restaurant.
Yeah.
As long as the city owns it.
Can you share who is running the restaurant?
Travis from Tree.
Oh, okay.
Cannot
Oh,
pronounce
okay.
his last name. Starts with a W.
Well, they know how to do it.
They know how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you guys moved back into your building yet? Is it? So no idea when you'll be back in? Yeah,
We haven't even started the insurance just since they agreed to the figures that we got to replace it. So
Yeah.
or fix it back the way.
So you're repairing, not rebuilding.
But it was, three estimates, 450, just 600. It's a lot.
it's a lot. You have any more questions for us? Gentlemen, you have any questions?
Good luck with it.
Yeah, we wish you a good project.
Thank you. Once. Those are mine.
Yeah, we have a copy, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in today.
He's not next, but the
Yeah.
other guy's not here yet. so-
Sure.
He's waiting on someone to.
Oh, so he's waiting, so.
I've got a couple of short updates.
Sure.
That tie to ARPA. I was at the Johnston City Council meeting last night. Something else, and they brought up that the welding is considered finished on their new water tower. They're waiting on the connection and painting, but they passed along appreciation to the board. They've spent all of the ARPA funds, and we're just very happy about it. Went out of their way to make sure they said thank you for
That's nice.
what they've done for them. So I want to make sure you got that. Also, I did my walkthrough and meeting with the folks, Coalition for the Homeless. I know I was the stick on that one. My only remaining issue with this group is giving them any amount of money spitting in the ocean. They're doing so much good work that you could just give them buckets of money and they would turn it into good work. So I certainly am not going to stand in front of the amount we had talked about before. I'm all in, but this is a group that, not because they're not getting it done, but just because they're doing such great work, they could use every dime or nickel we can get them.
Well, we expressed our main concern is that this is money from portioned out to Williamson County.
Yeah, that's-
We just like to make sure it stays in Williamson County. I think we got that across. So,
Right, I think,
and, you know, honestly, my mind's changed on it too, so. Very reasonable request.
do you remember what the amount was?
75,000.
75,000.
So if we want to send them an agreement, I'm all in.
Well, You okay with
I'm
that?
good with that.
Okay. So
So
you have a vote on that?
we can,
We did, yes? Yes. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion then that we approve the ARPA request for the Coalition for the Homeless.
I'll second that.
75,000.
Okay, roll call please.
Tim Atkinson?
Yes.
Jim Marlowe?
Yes.
Jim Razor?
Are you done?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm gonna have some. Yeah, we're gonna get you to sign paper today.
Sure.
And so this is for Hearst Fire Department?
Correct.
And this is for the self-contained breathing apparatuses. Have you had time to have that looked at?
Yes, I have.
Do you have any questions about it?
No, I don't.
Have you, that was a question that Jim asked the last one. You have the availability of these units?
I know the air cylinders are on back order. The company didn't have a time frame. Of course, shortages is everything nowadays. When I do, I'll contact one of you to let you know what kind of time frame we're looking at. Sure. The SCBA's themselves, they have them in stock, so I should be able to ship those out right away.
You guys got any questions? No questions for Tom?
How are you doing on manpower? Just a general question.
We're actually doing fairly well. We also run volunteer ambulance service too. And we have about 18 people on staff right now. I know there's a lot of volunteer departments that are hurting for, Cambridge has like 6 people right now. So yeah, it's a blessing. So, but we've always done fairly well on keeping staff. So, but I do appreciate everything. Do I need to contact you if there's any delay in the equipment getting shipped as far as
Yeah.
finishing up the grant and all that?
Yeah, especially if it's going to extend out for a long time. Do you think it's going to take a
I
long
don't
time?
think so. I'll find out for sure what the ETA is on getting them in stock.
Maybe that might be spent by 2026.
That shouldn't be a problem at all. I would hope not anyway. Okay.
Well, yeah, we would hope you can.
Right.
So when you do, if you want, you can order them, have an invoice, treasurer can check for those.
Okay.
Okay?
Very well. Appreciate it. Yep. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you, Smile.
Come on in, John.
Thank you. Like that, Trish Moak is our church council president, so I brought her along with us. I'm not really official, so
That's it right here.
thank you. And thanks for your information. I appreciate it.
So John, did you guys have a chance to have this agreement looked at?
We did. There were just 2 questions that we had, which Ashley answered very well. The disseminating of the finances. So we were just curious about how that worked, whether it's something that's given ahead of time or we send a receipt. I think we moved towards the receipt model for us, which will work best for us. And then the other is that it speaks of corporations, and we're not really a corporation, we're an organization, a nonprofit. So I don't know if that is a biggie, but just in language for us to think about that piece of it. But I'm sure you're working with lots of organizations, so.
Would they need something?
Ask her.
You're not a not-for-profit corporation?
Well, we are, but churches, I mean, we do have a 501c3 just like anybody else does. So I guess we don't language ourselves like that as in church world, but legally, if we are. So
That's the legal entity that
Yeah.
makes the difference. So if you,
we have all the parts. We've got a board of directors.
that's what I'm saying,
We-
tax return, all of those types of things would follow the corporate act. We don't pay taxes. I get it. But I'm just saying that,
Don't say that out loud, okay?
you guys have feathers, have
Yeah.
webs feet, quack.
We do.
You're short of calling yourselves a duck.
Right. So
I think.
other than that, everything was wonderful. So very grateful. Thank you.
So you'll spend the money, you'll pay the receipts and you'll.
Correct. So we talked, but probably it's just a short window that we spend money. So it's from basically July, we purchase the products that we need. It starts right away that first week of August, and then runs all the way through our first week of June. And then May. Thank you. I got my dates wrong. It's May to August. Thank you.
When school's out.
When school's
Yeah.
out. Right.
So we would conclude it just shortly after that time with probably the purchases. So what we talked about The Lunchables are the biggest expense and probably the
Yeah.
most complicated of billing. Most of it's just all purchased from Sam's or Walmart.
Will you spend all 15,000 this year?
No, as you said, we'll split it. So, and however you wish to disseminate it, but I think for us, that as we said, it'll work best. So if you hang on to the second and just plan on us not using that until
That's
the next year.
Yeah,
So,
once now it's set aside, it's not really.
okay. Wanted to ask the question is that, we purchase banners to communicate. Is that something that we can use those funds to use that for as well? That was one thing that came up. We can certainly use it for all food, and then we use our money for the banners that we raise between the two churches, but
That would be best, I would think.
I was gonna say, I would stick to whatever we put down.
Yeah.
in the agreement.
right.
Right, so,
So that's the only thing that we have outside of teachers, but people pay for their own t-shirt. So we try to be as visible as possible so that it looks like we're part of this Shine program. So that if somebody comes up to the park when it's not our day and says, hey, I'm with Shine, the kids will know, no, you're not. So,
good.
So
Now,
for clarification, I mean, technically they could use it for that. I
They
mean,
could.
that all ties into, I mean, providing for underserved, if that's what it calls for the
Mhm.
program to be able to do it,
Sure.
you could make it work, and you're only talking a few $100s.
right, oh, yeah.
The other thing, the 15,000, I mean, is all the way through 2026. So if you got a bunch of, if you got a bunch of sponsors, you would be able to use, I mean, even though you're saying 75 and 75, if you got other sponsors, then you could carry this over for 3 years. That's still, because the agreement is for up to 15,000.
Yes,
It doesn't say you have to use all of it in a certain chunk. So even though that's what's laid out. So,
right.
I mean, if you get a benefactor or something from that,
So is there 2026, we
have to spend the money by December 31st, 2026.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
what
you have to
I'm
wait
gonna-
3 years.
The money has to be awarded by 2024, it has to be spent by 2026.
Okay.
So I hate for you guys to
That's
just
what
like start
that,
trying to spend money.
that's a good option, Ashley. Thank you very much.
That way you can keep your donors involved also.
And we will. So, one of the big concerns is the Rotary Scholarship we received last year was a once in a lifetime experience. Kiwanis, we cannot do it each year. It has to wait a year, and that's from Kiwanis International. So we can't change the rules on that. So that's great. Awesome.
Yeah, so use it when and how. you-
Ultimately, we will spend it all.
That's what this board wants, is for you to spend everything you have to do.
And when I shared it back with the mission team, one of the things that you all said is that, we really want to make sure we have fresh fruit and fresh vegetables and that kind of stuff. And that helps us make sure that is part of our deal, because that's probably the most expensive, box of apples, as I said last time. It's a lot of money for a case of apples, which we believe is important to have that part of that. So,
John, this whole program was set up to reach as many people as possible.
correct.
That was the idea.
Mhm.
So I think that through your organization, I think we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I know.
That's what the intent of this money is for.
Well, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
So you just need to sign that.
Yep.
Okay. Great.
And then, Tim will sign it, and, we'll give you a copy of it.
Thank you.
Who's that?
Yeah, this is gonna be here quick, this summer season.
We're ready. Days like this get us excited about. And as I shared with you last time, is that for the last really 3 years, we've had we're just handing things out. And we started with the idea of having a kind of an impromptu picnic where we've got, the park district has given us all kinds of things to have the kids play golf or whatever they want, or frisbee golf. And we feel like we're kind of now free to do that again, where the kids can sit at picnic tables, they can take their lunch over by the swing sets and have some fun with it. So there's some positives that big past, the pandemic's gonna be with us one way or another for a long, long time, but it has lessened enough, especially in the world of kids, that they can have their lunch play outside and not to worry. So, friends, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley, for the wisdom yesterday. I'm grateful. All right, we don't move unless they tell us to. Okay.
You're dismissed.
Thank you. Teacher Green Beans, thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Blessings, everybody. I'll send you some bills, all right? All right.
Good, everybody else.
Absolutely. Very cool.
Okay, so the fun stuff is over with. Let's have a discussion about white ash sewer system. At some point, their funds will run out. And I think this board needs to work up a plan.
Yeah,
on exactly what we're gonna do when that happens. Actually, do you know how much money is left in white ash?
I can run out and get it. I looked it up late last week. I think it ended like 45K in all the funds. Anything that's in white ash, that's what.
About 45,000 total.
Brett dragged you into this immediately. I guess my question would be, when we're asked the question, what are we going to do? What are we legally obligated to do?
It's a good question.
I don't believe you're legally obligated to do anything.
Okay.
I've not reviewed any and all documents that the county has executed in the past. That was before my time, so I don't know. The dissolution of white ash occurred 2014.
It was effective
November.
2014.
What happened or what board action was taken or what, my assumption is that the board took some form of a receivership, but then I'm told no, not necessarily. So I don't know what legal authority the board has created or taken on by voluntarily taking money and paying bills and trying to coordinate services, and I don't have the full picture. I've not been asked to get to the full picture in regards to that. To my understanding, there's a couple of citizens of White Ash that have expressed concern, but majority have been silent and not said anything. The intergovernmental agreements that were with Johnson City that have been produced clearly show that there was an agreement between White Ash and Johnson City to provide the sewer so long as the maintenance of the lift stations and the pumps and the meters and everything else were done by White Ash. It has a successor clause in there that if any other entity took over White Ash, that then they would inherit the responsibility. There is a federal loan that is out there that still has a balance owed on it. I know the EPA's been contacted and they've said, thank you for the report, but that's about the extent, because they don't know who to go after on the report as well. Preliminary conversations about, can these people go back to a septic system? I think at some point in time, the EPA is going to have to step in on this and say, we can't have sewage running. It's not, it wouldn't be allowed at a farm, it wouldn't be allowed, that type of situation. I just don't know that they've got the staffing levels at this point to come out and really dig into people, so to speak. So to the best of my knowledge at this point in time, there's not an official document that says Williamson County has assumed White Ash. By default of the dissolution, it becomes part of the county territory, but it was a private, or it was a municipal system that I guess you could say now is potentially a private system. That's what I know at this point in time.
Thank you. Can I chime in on
Yeah,
this?
go ahead, Jim.
Okay, I was here when it happened, and Uh, The county is not qualified to begin with to maintain a sewer system. We don't have anyone on staff, no county has a water sewer district or department, water sewer department to maintain the water sewer department anytime. What happened was whenever they dissolved, county board at the time felt the need to help facilitate that they continue with their operations until it could be figured out what to do, how to handle it. We didn't know either at the time. The roads did go, Greg Smothers at the time did apply, had the roads, enter into their whatever register for the motor fuel tax. I think there's about a little over a mile worth of roads. And so that the highway department does take care of that. They had streetlights. Well, we had those shut off. We're not caretakers of white. We did sell their assets to help. And the reason why we did that was to help redirect those funds. We set up, I think, 3 special funds. We
There's
set
a
up
sewage fund.
sewage fund, a repair and
Fund.
replace fund,
And then the
and
bond.
USDA fund for the pay the bond. And all we did was to help facilitate, to make sure their daily operations wouldn't be interrupted. And as time went on, they were having issues. The waters to sewer ratio at that time was like a 6-to-1 ratio. Most municipalities are at a 2-to-1 ratio. And that's because they have a water department, sewer department that takes care of these issues as time goes on when they crop up. White Ash never really had, I don't think, the infrastructure. I believe from what I've read, they had just hired it out to various plumbing. So it's much like what we're doing right now when somebody wants to hook up. There it was, everybody thought that Johnson City at the time, the mindset was Johnson City was taking advantage of it. Turned out they're not. It was just a mindset. We found out smoking gun was, and I've said this before, but was the check valves that weren't closing properly after material would be pumped out to Johnson City. Check valves would close all the way, so all that material would come back, refill the pit, which would trigger the pumps to be kicked on again, to be pumped out again. And the meter only registers one direction. So that's why so much, they had such a higher sewer bill. We finally got that taken care of. But the board decided early on to not incorporate the money from the general fund because it was not the fault of the rest of Williamson County. White Ash decided to dissolve. So the money from the sale of the city hall, sell their squad car, they had like a municipal, which is basically just a shed. A pole barn shells all it was. We sold that and placed that money into these funds. We entered into an agreement with Johnson City, that Johnson City now would still treat the sewage. And that intergovernmental agreement is with Johnson City in Williamson County, so that whenever Pittsburgh would give us the money from when we separated the water bill and sewer bill, then we would forward the money on to Johnson City.
Pittsburgh is providing the water.
Pittsburgh provides the water. We entered into an agreement with Pittsburgh as well. Pittsburgh had that original agreement with Johnson City and so on. But that's all we did. Any money used to repair all along the way was taken from these funds and these funds only. Nothing from the general fund. And as time goes on, the money has dropped down. I believe I've got a recent report here. The USDA bond fund has $1,794. The sewage fund has $20,800, and the repair and replace has $3,259. $3,250. So we got about $25,000 That's it. So that's where we're at. Wings County never took over the sewer system itself. We just tried to help facilitate, we tried to help, until, take care of any problems until we could figure out a way to resolve this issue and to where we could give it away to somebody. We don't even own it to sell, so that's what
So,
we've done. And
the first
that's where
thing-
we're at. And then ARPA comes along. And so now we finally got the bucket of money, give them a new system, but the problem still is gonna remain. Once you put a new system in there, who's going to maintain it? That is the question. And unless an agreement is reached with, and Johnson City takes it over, I don't, and Pittsburgh's already expressed, they don't want it. I don't know what else to do other than alert the citizens to create a sewer district and form a board and let them maintain the system.
I think you've touched on what I see as the solution for the board for the county is we need to arrange an informational meeting for them, folks that are directly involved. We need an expert that can tell them what their realistic options are. You do this, this is where you are. You do this, this is where you are. It's their decision to be made. It's not ours. But our ARPA investment was what, 700,000? We don't want to see that just flushed, no pun intended. It would be best, I think, for them if they can find a way to keep this going with the improvements that have been made. But again, I believe it's up to them.
It is up to them. And if a sewer district is created, I don't know, I think we checked on that last time. Do the board members, do they have to be from White Ash or can they be appointed from other places?
They have to be part of White Ash, but
Okay.
I think before we even can address some of this, we have to understand, and Jim, maybe you know and can help, but we have to understand how the dissolution of White Ash occurred. Was it by voter referendum to dissolve?
Yes, I have it right here. if you can see it.
Okay, so because in looking at the Illinois Municipal Code, you've got your procedure, you've got your question, result of the election, and then it goes into closing of business affairs, and it specifically states if the vote is in favor of voluntary dissolution of municipality, there's no further elections of municipal officers. Officers acting at the time of the vote shall close up the business affairs of the municipality and make the necessary conveyances of the title to the municipal property. They may levy and collect taxes for the purposes of paying debts and obligations of the municipality, but they shall not create any new obligation against the municipality. All monies remaining after the business affairs of the municipality have been closed up and all the debts and obligations of the municipality have been paid, shall be paid to the school treasurer for the township or the school unit as the case may be in which the municipality or a greater part thereof was situated. This money shall become part of the school fund of the school district in which the municipality was situated. If the municipality was situated in more than one school district and the trustees of the schools for the spend, it goes on. So that's the process. That's the end process that should have happened. So the way I read the statute is the officers that were in office at the time of the vote for the dissolution retained their office and needed to wrap things up and make sure that their debts were paid.
And the problem with that is that there was no one on the board. I mean, this board was,
Okay.
and the one person who was seeing to it was in bad health.
Okay.
And so he was trying to take care of it.
So then the next question becomes, and again, it's because of a lack of knowledge on my behalf, what authority was given to the county to accept that role of wrapping things up? And how was that done? Was it an intergovernmental agreement from White Ash, the one office holder that said, hey, will you do this? Was it a voluntary Good Samaritan gesture by the county to do this? And that's back to my initial statement with Commissioner Razor is, that's my concern is, what have we stepped into? And can we step back?
The board, I'll say this, the board didn't operate independently. The board always went with the direction of the assistant state's attorney at that time. And so
Again-
everything that we did was through the direction of the state's attorney.
I understand, but now we're tasked with trying to figure out what was done and why was it done, and how can we gently back ourselves back out and say it's not our problem. And that's my concern. So when asked what is our legal, and you had stepped out, what is our legal obligation? We need to figure out how we legally got involved, because a dissolution of a municipality, nowhere in the Illinois Municipal Code involves the county board.
Right. I know, I get, they came to us
So,
and so the county board just thought, well, at that time, being a good neighbor, all we did was help facilitate things so that Johnson City would still get their sewer payment, while Pittsburgh still gets their water bill paid, and life goes on until we can figure this out. And that was it. That's it. From that point on, we figured this out till
fast
ARPA,
forward 9 years.
until ARPA came.
Well, I understand, but I mean, even before ARPA, there still wasn't a figuring of things
No.
out. I mean, the sewer wasn't put in during ARPA.
No. So, and we understood, we said all along, it's not our system, and that it's not Williamson County's name on that bond. We didn't sign for that. I'm just telling you what
No,
was
no,
said.
Jim, I agree 100%. I'm just trying to figure out how do we,
How do we back out?
yes. I got the tourniquet halfway on, and now I'm just walking away from it. I mean, that's the Good Samaritan, analogy on this is we tried to
I
help,
can make a
and
suggestion.
at what point do we say we're done?
I think I could make a suggestion. I think there's two different options. I think number one may not go anywhere, is to meet with Johnson City and tell them, look, this is a brand new system. Whatever money we have left over in these funds, give it to them. They can apply it down on the rest of the balance of the bond if they would like.
I don't know that we have the authority to do that.
Okay,
Because
well,
because we've got a debt out there. White Ash has a debt. That debt, again, under Illinois Municipal Code and closing business affairs, those debts are supposed to be paid.
Mhm.
So before we can turn and say, Johnson City, here's this money for you to use, I think USDA or somebody is gonna raise their hand and say, you've got money, it's ours.
well,
Now, if they'll say, hey, we forgive this, then we can have that conversation of Johnson City, here's some money that we can give you.
but I don't think, that's good if they could forgive it, but I don't think they will. Simply because it's a system, they've given the money to the system, and the system is still there, the system is still operating. There's nothing wrong with the system, so why should they forgive it? I'm just a hypothetical.
I don't disagree, but what I'm saying is I don't think we can offer that to Johnson City because I think there's somebody else in line
Okay,
first.
so then we discussed this way before you came on, that we could also just take the rest of this money and apply it to the bond. And put money down on the bond. And then hopefully Johnson City would say, hey, look, here's a brand new system. It could be profitable. Johnson City, probably the one thing you'll need to do at first is raise your rates, because these rates haven't been raised in a while. Make it to where it's profitable for you. It's a brand new system. You've got a captive audience. It's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, no,
It's very unfortunate. I feel bad for everybody out there.
So Grant, do you think we need to find out how we got into this before we start trying to get Johnson City or some entity to take this over?
yeah, because I don't think we have the legal ability to negotiate anything.
I don't think we do either.
I'm not even sure for sure how we have the legal ability to hold their funds. But I don't know who else is gonna hold them, and that's,
Nobody else is gonna hold them.
and that becomes the,
Well, I'll say this, we made their payment, with what every month.
I know.
But option two that I was gonna suggest was the formation of a sewer district and create the board. But I think in order to do that, if if we can't figure out something with Johnson City for whatever the reason, then I think we do need to have a town hall meeting with the village residents and let them know, look, this is where we're at. We've taken care of the system with your funds all along because the board was trying to be a good neighbor.
Yeah, no,
And we were just trying to make the best of a bad situation, but we're at the end of the rope here.
yeah, and I don't think it's a village meeting. I think it has to be anybody that's connected to the sewer system.
Not just inside, because there may be.
Well, that's
people
what I meant.
outside.
I meant everyone that's on the system.
So I think that's probably an excellent idea. We should make that happen. But for them to do that, they would have to go through an election cycle. The people that district would have to vote this in.
Correct.
So we're going to run out of funds before that happens. I think we're gonna be out of money there.
Timeline on that then, let's just say hypothetically, everything is fine. It would have, it's probably too late to put it on the April election.
Yeah, it's too late to
And so
go.
it'd be on, would it be?
What do you want to put on the ballot?
Have them create a referendum for
So-
a sewer district.
There would have to be a petition. People in the district would have to have a petition signed. And have it placed on the ballot, wouldn't
If you're gonna put a question on the ballot, yes, but
it? Yeah.
I think, I read something that they can't do anything to incur any more debt
Right.
since they've dissolved. So,
Would that incur that by putting something on the referendum?
I don't know.
Brett, back to when you were reading, speaking of debt, there is a debt. But it seems in the words you read, there was something tied to it. The dissolution couldn't be completed until the debt was retired.
Technically, they're not dissolved.
Well, that's my question, is that what I heard, or am I understanding what I think I heard?
That's what I've always said, because I believe even Wendy said that. Whenever she was our assistant.
Right, but in 2014, when they voted to do this, there was only 3 people on the board, out of a board of 7, counting the president. There was only 3 people left, a husband and wife, and Mr. Jones. And I think Mr. Jones is the only one who ever came in and basically they all just walked away. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with it. So there is no board or nobody there that will take it over.
I mean, technically, under the municipal code, they have the ability to levy and collect taxes for paying the debt on the sewer or any other obligation that they had. They just can't create a new one, so. Roll the clock back to 14, I think they could have continued to levy to extinguish that debt.
Yeah.
But my
There was no one to do it. Yeah, Wendy might remember some stuff on this, and I'm sure we had some meetings too. I don't know if we have any notes in board meetings that we had. They came to several meetings, or Mr. Jones did.
I had the minutes from their meetings, and there were a number of months where Mr. Jones, his entry was, no one showed up for the village board meeting, turned the lights out, and locked the door.
He came to several of our meetings too. I guess before they.
Yeah.
So what causes concern on this resolution, and I don't, again, just quickly reading. It says the village of White Ash shall immediately list their assets for sale. If the parcels are not sold by December 31st of 14. Transfer and ownership of the property will be deeded to the Williamson County government. Question becomes, is the sewer system considered an asset or a parcel? That is the resolution 14-12-15-150, which was Williamson County Government's plan in response to the village's white ash vote to dissolve. But there's nothing from white ash saying they agree to this.
And if that was true, that would become part of Williamson County, I mean, that would put every county at risk. All these little villages would get the infrastructure that they wanted at the time, and then as time goes on, you have the same scenario, people get off the board. and-
Yeah, no, any
And
municipality.
then, so now we're on the hook for sewer, for power, for water, for, whatever village. That USDA signed an agreement.
You are if you took the obligation.
That
That's
was a
the,
choice.
that's the
That
difference.
was a choice.
But we didn't.
Well, Jim, I'm not disputing that of what you're saying. What I'm trying to look at is through the documentation to see what is the legal status of things. It's a 9-year puzzle that we're gonna have to put together, because you were one of 3 commissioners and you probably were just coming in.
14, I was there for a year.
So, I mean, it was Ron and Brent.
Probably would have been
We've got different state's attorneys, we've got different assistant state's attorney.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those things come into play, and the only document that I've got at this point in time are the ones that you had sent over from the FOIA request to Johnson City, and then this resolution that Stephanie just provided me now to
Can
look
you
to
get us
find
a
out
copy of that?
what the status is. So, I think we need to get on solid ground before we take any action
No, I agree.
and figure out exactly what our role is.
We need to do that before we attempt anything else.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I don't
Here's
even
my
know.
concern, and obligated or not, we are going to be. Let's play worst case scenario, or at least worst case I see. And we at some point say the money's gone, we turn off the power, and they have an unpowered sewer system. As soon as that starts spilling out into the street, and spilling into the streets of Williamson County, we're gonna be on the hook for it. Plain and simple. I mean, we can't afford to turn that off, or we're gonna have a bigger EPA mess than what we've got right now.
Which brings up another point that I didn't bring up, and the last power bill
That's
for the pumps. Normally they're running, $100, $200, $300, it was $1,000. Another $1,000 off of 25.
Thank you, Steph.
So, but going back to Jim's comment of the county's gonna be on the hook. If I'm a county resident that has a residence and I'm dumping sewage into the ditch, the county doesn't get assessed by the EPA. It's the individual landowner. So I practically speaking, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I don't know from a legal sense of things, if we don't have control of this sewage system that these houses are hooked into, and the sewage system fails, normally they go after the municipality and say, you're dumping raw sewage in, and so therefore that's where you're going. No different than their ponds or affluents or anything else that's out there. So if the county truly has not taken on any legal obligation, the EPA is going to be going after the individual homeowners.
Concern again, and I'm not in your seat, but the county's been paying that bill for so long that by association, we have taken it on.
That's where I need to check from the legality.
And we can say we didn't take it, but we took it on.
Now, when you say the county's been paying the bill, the money that we paid it with only came from White Ash residents.
We certainly were a facilitator.
That's,
We were making it all happen.
that, yes.
There's 9 years worth of county information in my report, and
And
I'm turning that over.
EPA has been notified. We had a meeting with EPA on this whole situation. And that's where they came to the realization they're at a standstill.
But they can't be.
I get it, all that, but, so that's why anytime there's a spillover, we contact the EPA and say, hey, it's run over. They say, thank you. That's about it.
Just what I relayed to you the other day when I
Right,
called.
but that's what I'm saying, is they can't,
They can't let go of the
I mean, if
responsibility.
if the state agency's gonna say,
They're-
nothing we can do, then I don't know why we're beating our heads against the wall.
Well,
trying to figure out our own solution.
I went to the EPA and had a meeting with them and with Ryan Robley. And I think he's got a brother that's on the EPA committee as well. And met with them and told them, this is our situation. They were scratching their heads. I'm telling you, it's like, they don't know, it's like what you're saying. They don't know what to do with it. And they report to Springfield, but they get nothing in return. At least to the best of my knowledge, Springfield hasn't done it.
So I think we need to try to reach out to the EPA, explain where things are at, explain that this is getting ready to come to a head, and we better get something figured out on this.
Yeah.
I think at that point, their legal counsel is probably going to dig into the question as to, is our facilitation created a legal obligation to finish this or finalize this out? I hope not, but I don't, again, I don't know. They're going to be scratching for answers just the same as I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and say we're done, good Samaritan over. But, you know, as Jim says, it's still gonna be our problem. Because now you're going to have in our ditches, potentially raw sewage floating along the roadway that we know as a county is not sanitary or safe for anybody else. And you're gonna have some obligations, or you're gonna certainly have some people that aren't part of that sewer system saying, hey, my entire road smells because this is happening. What are you gonna do for me? So before we get to that phase, I think we have to get the necessary parties at the table and say, what can we do? What are our options? We know this. This is how much money there is. This is the system that's in existence. This is the debt that still exists. They've stopped levying the funds. This is a mess. How are we getting out of it? But it's gotta be a team.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for what it's worth, I've contacted all of our state representatives, senators, and U.S. congressmen about this issue all along the way. I've made them aware of everything. I said, something has to be done. I don't know, to put pressure on EPA, create new legislation, whatever, a plan of action, and nothing has been done. That's all I can do is reach out to them.
So we get a meeting with EPA, and we figure out where we're at on our end. We get a meeting with EPA, we'll see if they'll come up and come to a meeting.
I think that's I think that's the first step.
Okay. I'll call.
You probably know these
Yeah,
plumbing association businesses.
yeah. We'll go through that, we'll figure out, you think we can come up with a legal idea about where we stand from our point of view before we do that?
I mean, the documentation that I have is just this, and I'll have to do a little bit of research to find out if there is such a thing as assumed responsibility once you've.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it doesn't happen often, so I don't know that there's gonna be a lot of case law that we're gonna be taking a shot in the dark on, but certainly.
I think before we try to talk to Johnson City, put together a town meeting, whatever. And I guess we need to look in to see if they're actually dissolved.
I think we had contacted maybe Sangamon County. There was up north, you remember, Jim, we found another town that had dissolved and contacted them at one point. But
I know, I don't know about that. All I know is that at one time, Clear Lake was wanting to dissolve, and they contacted us on how to do about it. Because they knew that White Ash had dissolved. That's all I know about from Sangamon County. I don't know another entity that had infrastructure already in place. I don't know anything.
You got anything else on White Ash? Okay. Moving on, the polling place relocation. Amanda, were you able to make that work with them out there?
Yes.
I guess that's
thank
what
you.
this is.
Yeah, so we have two. So Krill Springs, City Hall, we were hoping to get back into the City Hall, but they are not available yet, and they've sold Sugar Creek, or it's gonna be leased out. So the fire department is really the only other option down there. And we've talked to them, and they're willing to let us have the election there. And then the other one is the Carpenter's Hall, that building that we've used for years. I guess they're going to be selling it, they're moving out. And so you contacted the local 318 and they're willing to let us go in there.
Yes,
So, and it's just across the road.
it is exactly right across the road. Okay. Any conversations, questions about it?
To accept resolution number 23-03-01-62, relocating 2 polling places.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Tim Atkinson?
Yes.
Jim Marlowe?
Yeah.
Jim Razor?
We have a travel reimbursement. Commissioner Marlowe,
No.
a successful trip.
It was a successful trip. I wouldn't have turned in mileage unless we passed the test. We passed the test.
Razor, not Marlowe,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I said Marlowe. I was looking at Razor, and then I said Marlowe, I'm sorry, Jim. Yeah, very successful trip.
And
That was true.
bold letters.
Okay. Yeah. I make a motion to accept the travel reimbursement to Jim Razor for the amount $262.
I'll second it.
Tim Atkinson?
Yes.
Jim Marlowe?
Yes.
Jim Razor?
Okay. Does anybody have anything for budgeting?
ARPA. And I've got ARPA.
Okay, let's talk ARPA.
A couple of different things. One, clarification, Saline River Farms, while I was sitting on that side, there were some discussions on amounts. We don't have an agreement with them, and it's my understanding the agreement doesn't have an amount written in it. By my looking at what's been allocated, we only have the 1 million number available. We don't have a 2 million number available.
Correct, it was a $1 million.
Just $1 million.
1 million.
Right.
So that's clear, and we can take care of that. The other one was we did get an application for the Marion Fire Training Facility. Have you all seen that? Well, we'll get that next time.
Yeah, we did, and we're gonna get one, we're gonna get an application for Lighthouse Homeless Shelter. I think I talked to them yesterday, they're maybe looking for 8 to 10 computers for the residents to be able to get on and fill out job applications, take lessons, take training, those kinds of things. So I gave them the application yesterday, they've not filled it out yet. And honestly, I think we still, in my opinion, we should still take a little bit of a break from.
Well, I think, and I would like to see the treasurer's numbers, because when I put in what was signed today, the Saline River, I have us out of money now in allocations. Now, I don't have interest in this. I don't have projects that have come up short and have left extra funds. But by the numbers I have, and this was taking all of our allocations, we only have 18,000 left.
I think that's probably pretty close.
Yeah.
So I think we're, and the fire training facility, again, we'll bring that up later. I think it's something worth looking at, and that was over 40,000. So from my numbers, and again, I'd like to see yours for comparison, but I think we're done, fellas.
I think
So I
so.
think so.
Does that include your carve out portion? Or
I have that in
We-
here. as well.
Yeah,
We set aside 1 million
so,
for the county.
right, so we're
purposes.
not completely out.
well, I was gonna bring up another. So Coal Valley, you had awarded them 90,000 change.
Yeah.
They intended on doing all the work themselves. I went to their meeting Monday night, and they are spread super thin. The project that they currently have with the USDA is going on and on and on. They only have like 100 days left, I think, in the contract, and they're not even close to being done. So, and they have to start repaying, I think, this debt, no matter what happens on that, and they're going to have to try to get it from the contractor. Plus, with all the cold snaps and everything, and all of their, you know, repairs and everything else, they now say they're not going to be able to install them themselves, and they're contacting the company to get contract bids to be able to do that. So I know everybody else that has submitted first, Creole Springs, all of them, I mean, had submitted requests that included labor, but they're probably going to come back to you asking, you know, for this as a possibility, because they do, I don't know. They'll be lucky if they can get them installed by 2026.
Have we given them the money for the meters?
No, actually, this whole thing, this morning, they gave me a bill, or on Monday, they sent me a bill, which was an estimate, I realized. I called the company, and they were like, well, we're not, these are 6 months out, you know, we're not going to be billing this until that time. And so then I started asking other questions, and they're like, yeah, they never asked us about, you know, installation. And he said I can get with them and give them that information, but he's like, they're the only one, because they're also, Burnside, I think you gave, they're the same company's handling it for Burnside. He said, well, Burnside asked for the whole thing, installation and all,
Right.
and that's what we gave him. He said, I know that's what, I believe what you know, as a county had agreed and awarded to them.
Right.
So he's like, I didn't understand why Coal Valley was doing it in the way that they did it. And I said, well, after talking with them, they said they didn't know, and then I know that you had asked them if they, you know, needed it, but they didn't answer, you know, that at the time as well. But I mean,
So I've had a thought since you brought that up to me, and their labor shortage is probably a short-term thing until they get this project done.
well, I know they had an individual that was ill
Right.
and has been off, and they have.
So they don't have the meters for 6 months. Their manpower problem may be solved by then.
Could be.
But that's kind of what I'm
They've
thinking.
only got two or three anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have it, yeah. I just wanted to make you aware,
I know.
as you're doing your.
I'm legal for them, so.
Yeah.
Everything else, I mean,
Facilitate whatever.
they are, you know.
I think they're, after listening to what Ashley said, that this conversation was, I think it's probably a short term. Maybe it is. I don't know that we need to act on that today.
Well, no, I mean, I told them they needed to get their bids, come
They've
in
got to
and talk to you and request those. So I have no idea what the dollar amount is or anything. I told them they gotta do the legwork to come in and present to you all. So, you know, and I told them that we were pretty close to being fully expended in award grants. So there may or may not be funds available. They needed to get on it as quickly as possible.
Well, they need to make a
So
decision.
I just wanted to make you aware, I felt it was kind of my obligation, so I was literally sitting there in the meeting.
Are you dealing with Ron or April or?
Well, I talked with Ron, and Chris is, I think the guy's name is Chris, is the rep for the company that I just talked to today. But April was there too. I mean, I was, you know, kind of talking to all of them, but they were, I mean, they were talking about how all the things that they had going on. And I guess they bought a building, or there's a building.
They were trying to build a building.
Well, they bought a building, there's something, or someone gave them a building, and now they're trying to retrofit that in exchange, okay.
So that, there was no money exchange for that, that was.
So something was working out. Now they got that
That's
on
what
top
this
of
one-
trying to do all the, you know,
Transfer.
the other stuff. So,
Right. Is that the one that's on Pittsburgh Road?
I believe it is.
Yeah, they need to get in there, they need to fill
Right.
out.
That's what I told you. No,
And I would
call them.
suggest maybe they hold off on ordering their meters until they figure out what they're gonna have to have.
Well, I mean, technically they're ordered. I mean, when I talk to the guy, I mean, they're in production. They're just not gonna be delivered for another, you know, probably 6 months, and I mean, payment's not due until that.
If I could create a business, it would be a water.
Yeah.
Water meter company. It's going down. Everybody is.
Everybody's doing them, yeah. Right, and I don't know, it would be a board decision whether they got any increase in the money.
Well, they've got they get them in 6 months, they still have 2 years to install.
They still have quite
I
a bit.
don't think, I appreciate the information, but I don't think we need to
No.
be too concerned yet. Just-
And that's why I said their manpower shortage may change by then. Do you have anything else for
Well, I mean, I've got four
planning?
requests, yeah. First one, Franklin Williamson Community Services, for installation of 2 tankless water heaters and a whole building water filter. I guess for instant hot water or higher level hot water for their building and their clinic out on Express Drive. $9,550 is that one. Then Blairsville Water District, engineering services of Horner Schifflin, or Schiffrin, pay number 4 estimate to Caldwell tanks and the invoice to Lakeside for water tank filling, $24,403.88. I think it's going to come under budget. The water filling is out of their contingency, so I don't know exactly how all that, they're pulling stuff from certain lines. So I don't know what the exact amount is, but they're still going to be under budget. First, request for Carrying Council Ministries, asking for reimbursement for 74 sessions that they supplied at a rate of $35 per session. There were 51 mental health sessions, 21 relationship sessions, and 2 substance abuse sessions within those 74. So they attached an email providing that breakdown. The total amount for that is $2,590. And then I have 3 invoices for Excella Technologies for the circuit clerks grant award that you gave them. I think the total amount of that grant was $350,000. This was to offset, I guess, costs associated with the depletion of the dock storage fund for that office. So total amount of these 3 bills is $124,990.79. Any questions?
The second amount that came in, 204,000, is that what it was? Came in January.
Oh, yeah, the tribal.
Yeah, we tried it. And we've not done anything with that fund yet.
Sitting in the trust and then.
Something has come up that I checked and qualify to go under that. It's something that we probably need to move on. That was cameras for the assessor's office. That does qualify to come out of that. Well, I looked at, that was $6,000 out of 102.
Yeah.
We can't vote on it today. It's
Right.
just
So.
food for thought.
And I will tell you this, the assessor came, asked me about that. And that's his department, and he actually has money in his office equipment. And so since it's in his office, I told him to go ahead and pay for that. If there was a question, and then if, because once again, that's in his budget, all square office equipment. He's got. And if he were to run short, we look at that later, possibly happen.
There's one other thing, and I guess with Rep being here, he might be able to shed some light. I have not talked to the state's attorney about this. My understanding is that there is some opioid settlement money that I think we're eligible for, somewhere in the range of $70,000 to $80,000. I know nothing about it, except for the fact that someone showed me a table that Williamson County is listed.
I saw where one county somewhere, not to mention it, was awarded.
But I don't know what the specifics are. I don't know where the money, I've never seen any money coming in. I haven't provided any information. And my understanding is it's limited as to what you can spend it on, and there's reporting that has to be done. But I don't know anything about that at all. I didn't know if any of your other counties that you oversee or have a relationship with, if you discuss?
Yeah, I mean, outside of this county, I have some detail. I don't have any information about Williamson County or what they could receive. It's from the drug manufacturers. I think it is required to be utilized for drug prevention purposes, whether that be prosecution, et cetera.
Prosecution enforcement.
So, yeah, so oftentimes what is built in, and I don't have the details of any agreement and receiving the settlement, but oftentimes what will happen is we'll indicate that it can be used for salary and purposes, so long as you can atone for that is what that person did or a portion of their job was doing that. In other words, you can't use the funds to pay the salary of somebody that was handling traffic unless it has a nexus to the drug. But I'd have to defer to Ted on that as to what's coming in for the county.
So, I mean, I can reach out to him and see, again, I don't know if he's aware of it. I didn't know anything about it.
He and I talked recently about that, but not in depth.
Okay.
So if you want me to do that, I'll reach out to him.
I don't care. I just know, I was told there's a reporting component to that. I don't know who's, required to do so or how that's done, but I mean, obviously that's something that don't want, to drop, through the cracks and I need to know, how those funds would need to be set up. They need to be a standalone, can I commingle them and put them in the general fund and set it up as a trust? And how do I need to monitor and maintain those?
Illinois is getting 760 million of the 26 billion national by Johnson & Johnson. So it's a lot.
But if you would like to reach out to them and talk to them about it, then
Yeah.
just let me know what I need to do to help facilitate that.
Yeah, I don't think he's got any, he doesn't have any accounts or anything, does he?
Yeah, I'll get those.
Oh, sorry.
I was trying to listen to you, just pass them along.
No, there's the state attorney's office has no funds. I mean, directly under their purview or oversight at all.
Right, so.
I mean, through us. But I mean, there is a drug forfeiture fund, but I doubt that needs to be put in that one. I mean, I can't open up a separate account if we need separate county measures of those. You just need to.
It appears it's going to have to go to some type of an opioid remediation program. So it may be, for instance, veteran drug court may qualify. I don't know.
I just didn't want to check to show up somewhere and all of a sudden,
Yeah, we're leaving it out.
yeah, so. It's gonna be a little proactive.
Okay, you guys got anything else?
Could that money be redirected to the mental health? Then to be
That's, I mean, I guess that's the state's attorney's call once he reviews it and
Because that's one of the agencies that.
decides what's available.
Yeah, like I said, I'm assuming the state's attorney's office is, because the AG's office will receive information. It won't come to me.
Okay, I will give you an update on the Johnson City grant for the water tower lines that they had from CDBG, and that we had a monitor visit, and there were some concerns on that. Ashley has addressed the concerns, the signatures, the combing the accounts, and the interest bearing. There were other concerns. One of them was making sure that we had a fair housing ordinance, which we did. We had that prior to their monitoring and their list of concerns. We have the poster and the complaint forms posted. We have pictures of that. And then there were two other items that concerned job site visits. And those two items were contractual and bidding information things that require no further action. So I've got what Ashley's response was. I put together another response for the first three, for housing and the posters. I will put together a response. We'll send that to them. They requested that we send that information to Greater Egypt. Greater Egypt has all that information there to put it in a file there. And I will send a reply to Wendy Bell, office. And if you guys want to be, I'll have Stephanie send you a copy. Okay, what was there? And that will be done, all that should be complete tomorrow.
Do you think they're gonna respond to you, I mean, what you sent, like what I sent? Because I wasn't very nice in that response.
Actually, I read through it and I thought what you put down was just fine.
Okay. Because I mean, they're asking for things that are not statute required and I mean, would be an additional expense to the county.
Yeah.
There's nobody, I mean, Amanda's the second highest bonding person in the county at 250,000. That's set forth by you guys. There's no statute that requires bonding of any other individuals, I mean, to a level of, you know, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $1 million. I mean, it's $1,700 a year to bond me $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you're asking for a second signatory, that would have to be on the accounts out of my office and bond them at $1 million, and that's another $1,700 that the county's gonna have to pay for really no reason.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand that and why that's a requirement whenever it's literally not.
I'll send it to her and we'll see if we get a response. And because I've already had a conversation telling her everything I just said to you guys. And she just asked that we put it into the file and I'm going to send it also to her. Okay, just so we're covered on that.
No, that's fine. I mean, like I said, it's just, that's not even in the statutes.
Right.
There's literally nothing that requires those, you know, those bonding amounts.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of caught off guard when the states that documentation.
Right. And then we have one last thing. Did you have anything else on it? Okay, one last thing is this proposal quote for the election machines.
You wanted me to get an updated
Yes.
one, so it has gone up from the last one that I received. So this one is good till March 9th. It's a 30-day.
Yeah.
Give you guys an update on it.
So if you would guys read through this, if we want to put this on the agenda and have a vote for it, we can do that.
Well, we did it one of two ways. Actually, did be voted on now, ARPA, because ARPA is on the agenda. But when we put that $1 million aside, part of it we need for squads. But so we got either ARPA or I forgot what, I don't have the total, what we have in capital.
I'm not sure we can use ARPA funds to buy building equipment.
So we put that $1 million aside.
If you do that 10 million, you know, if you do the lost revenue.
We have to claim it as lost revenue. And then it'll have to go into the general fund and then we'll have to have a vote to get it out of the general.
I
fund.
was just saying as a
Yeah.
suggestion.
Yeah.
That's. But
If you have money in capital improvements,
I was
We
going
have,
to
we
say
have enough money in
capital
capital
improvement
improvement.
would.
I mean,
And I'd kind of like you guys to maybe think about it. That's where, if you want to do this, if that's where you want to take it from. Look at the capital improvement accounts. See if you can see in your crystal ball, what we might have spend money on coming out of that account.
So
What's the last day we have to have these by next spring?
Oh, by next spring, well, we can wait, but what happens, if you look at the quote that I gave you guys earlier, it's already gone up. So I'm just saying it's gonna keep going up, most likely. But yeah, he told me they weren't like on back order or anything like that. They should be able to get them, no problem.
So that's not for this.
No.
No, it would be for the next spring.
And it's something, in my opinion, it's something we need to do.
We have,
Yeah.
I agree with you doing it.
We have to do this, so.
Yeah, the machines that we have now, the 2004, I think it is, and they're just, they're getting older technologies. Parts are harder to replace and just having issues.
All right, so I will put this on the agenda for the next meeting. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Have I missed anything we should talk about?
Stuff with Johnson City was stuff about.
That was Johnson City got it. Yes, that was Johnson City got it. Yeah. And that will be, once again, that will be tomorrow. Response from the sometime.
I asked around the VRBO ordinance
Yeah.
for review. You guys can review that, provide any comments or feedback. I know Ashley is anxiously awaiting to get this one swiped out as well. It's been a 3-year process or however long. So
Maybe two, maybe.
it is.
I had a person reach out to me on Facebook. I was telling Brett when he handed me that this afternoon, reach out to me on Facebook asking me about if the county was going to start collecting these funds.
See, the county's already, they already do, that's the problem. I mean, you have so many people, you know, I sit in these Visit SI meetings, plus I see all of these people on Facebook talk about how they've got their stuff, you know, rented out and everything else, you know, for months on end.
Yeah.
And then I look at our receipts log and I'm like, none of them are on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why, I mean, this needs to be put in place, so it has a mark, send that in, get Airbnb and Verbo to be able to put that on their back end, and then they'll start collecting that and sending us those funds. And then we can start collecting that on behalf of Visit SI, plus increasing our admin, you know, fees that we're receiving, because obviously larger, you know, full money.
Did you guys have any chance to look at this at all?
I glanced through it, so
So did I.
this is outside of here, adding workload, not adding workload to your office.
Well,
Significant.
It won't be significant. I mean, what'll happen is, Azabar is a company that the county already deals with. They have a direct relationship with Verbo and Airbnb. I have attempted numerous times to call those two entities, it's like Fort Knox, can't get into anything, to be able to add our county tax for all of these. So Azabar is gonna be the intermediary. They're gonna take some of this money, like whatever, 30%. So I gotta work that out with Visit SI, or know that they're gonna have to pay a portion of their receipt, you know, less than that for a certain period of time. But by doing this,
3 years.
Verbo will send it to us directly, and then hopefully there'll be some kind of list. We'll just make a single deposit, and then we'll remit the fund. So it'll be minimal. Again, it's monies that are not being captured now that are, you know, not being able to be used for either, promotion of the region, I mean, or for admin costs that we have. But there's gotta be certain language, referencing transients is what they're called now, which are your, you know, your
Less than
in-town,
30.
yeah, less than 30 days. But those are your little in-town rentals, you know, cabins, everything that's now popping up everywhere.
I had a couple of questions on this, but I mean, I'll wait until everybody reads this. We'll
I haven't
have a
had
good
time to
discussion
read
on it. But there are a couple of questions, a couple of things I'd like to have answered. So,
Are those companies listed specifically in that ordinance?
No.
No, any other pop-ups, I think Ashley's correct in that this is the easiest way to capture those, or else you can just say, we're never gonna capture them.
Yeah.
But a lot of municipalities have had that same struggle where they pull up and do a VRBO search and they see all these houses and all these, and the only reason they ever find out about them is because a neighbor complains of the people coming in over the weekend and being loud and raucous, and then you find out, well, people don't even live in Florida. And getting this on the books before the next eclipse events is probably important, because that's when you'll see a lot of this area.
one of my questions on this was, is there a timeline that if somebody's gonna do this with their house, that they have to have within 30 days or a
So there's a
timeline
timeline,
to a report to the treasurer?
so there's a
I'm
time,
using this as.
yes, there's a timeline built into the statute, or built into the ordinance that indicates, I think, December 15th of each year, they have to register within the treasurer's office or the county clerk's, I forget how it's said. And then I have a starting date in here that I artificially put in. And so you guys will have to figure out whenever it's gonna get passed, you know, of a May start date with collection being July or of that. So that can fluctuate. There's no specialty to that. It's just to give enough time for people to process the paperwork, get it sent into the companies, so that way it's any reservation after June 1st is how I put it in at this point, that it'll automatically trigger for the company to collect. So I don't anticipate if Ashley's gonna put his house on VRBO, that he's gonna write a check to the county and say, oh, here's my tax. So it's an automated, semi-automated process through this company that they will collect for it and then automatically flip that out.
You know, all of your hotels pay in person, fill out the forms and everything else. Very few mom and pop shops actually fill out the forms and submit those to us. So what this will allow us to do is, you know, VRBO and Airbnb will collect those funds, send us a report of those individuals or of those addresses, and here's what they submitted. That will meet their actual reporting requirements by having all that. But that lets us capture things that these people aren't paying us now to begin with.
Mhm.
They're reaping all the benefits, but not paying the required taxes that are set forth by the county. So, you know, this is a way to force them to pay it because they can't rent because Vrbo and Airbnb will automatically insert those fees.
It's a credibility issue,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
they go through those sites for credibility. I mean, there's nothing that prevents you from putting your house on Facebook.
Right.
But you're gonna have some out-of-town people that are gonna be like, I'm not gonna sign up for a Facebook house type of situation. So the national credibility of these two entities is really what we're trying to capture.
Yeah.
You won't get them all,
They're
but
not gonna get involved, but what do you do, what do you do about the local homes that are just popping up?
And the verification of what they're submitting.
unless you have an ordinance code
Well,
enforcement officer.
I mean, that's the
Yeah, we're not gonna
thing. It's
get
all
them.
on the honor system, even with the hotels.
And that's the problem.
Right.
That's the main problem.
But at least if they're renting their lake house for $200 a night and all of the fees are calculated in there through VRBO, I mean, that money's gonna have to go to us. They get their net amount, and they have to,
Yeah.
and whether they ever sign up, I mean, officially walk in here and sign up with us, we're still gonna collect their money.
Right.
And then we're gonna disperse it accordingly. But there's so many people, I mean, there's someone that owns literally like almost an entire point now down in at the Lake of Egypt. I know we don't get a dime from them, but I hear, that they've got
And they're rented,
8 different properties all on the same road available for,
and they're always rented.
Maybe more than that.
no problem.
Yeah.
So, that's why we're putting this in here to eliminate the,
So then, I didn't really want to get into this conversation until everybody understood that, read it, but that triggers, what is the enforcement?
well, I mean, there really is no one, I mean, it says $100 a day, which we have to have the state's attorney, send in if they fail to comply.
Because we've been down this path before with the former state's attorney
Mhm.
with one of the hotels. we
Right,
did.
right.
And, so no,
I mean, I just hound them. I hound them and hound them and hound them. I can say, knock on wood right now, there's only one hotel that's like 1 or 2 months behind. I mean, everybody else is paid current.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we send them, they get tired of listening to either me or it was Rachel and now Michelle calling and saying, hey, we are awaiting your whatever payment.
And you have to understand, it's no different than if you go to St. Louis or Belleville or any of those. They're not, the hotel's not paying it. I mean, they're physically paying it, but they've added that on. I mean, it's like you go onto a website and you find travel.
Just like any other tax.
Expedia has a hotel room for $109, but by the time you get out of there, it's $163 because every municipality, et cetera, gets their share of it. So that's essentially what this is going to do, is it's going to create that fee structure through the VRBO site, and then VRBO is going to swipe and make you pay, and you guys are going to go and collect.
So if you guys would look through it, if you have any questions or changes.
Call me.
Let know, because I intend to put that on the next agenda.
I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Tim Atkins.
Yes.
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Jim Razor.
Yes.
Hey, Ash.
Did you get those,
So
claims?
we got it. Jim, you say we have